Hey, boys and girls, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here again with Kid Chess, and we're going to look at one of my favorite games, definitely in my top five. Um, it's actually a game that I won. I can't believe I won. This game was played over 30 years ago um, in Europe, and the guy that I played was a lot better than me, but sometimes the worst player wins. And later in his life, about, let's see, I guess it was 8 years ago, he played reigning world champion Vishy Anand for the World Chess Championship. And actually, they tied their match 6-6. And then they had a rapid playoff, which Anand won, and Anand retained the title. Too bad for me. I could have said I beat a future world champion. All right. I like this game to show you kids because this game features opposite side castling. Those games are usually pretty interesting. The better you get at chess, the more you castle. Some kids don't like to castle, but grandmasters almost always castle. Opposite side castling means one side castles one way and the other side castles the other way. Those games are usually really exciting because you play for checkmate. Okay, so we played one of my favorite openings. This is called the Nimzo Indian. And when I was 14 years old, which was a long time ago, I was playing in a correspondence tournament, the only one I ever played in, where you would actually write your moves on a postcard and then mail it. And the games would take like a year. They still do that today, but they use the internet, so the games only take like a month or two. But anyway, I had the black pieces in the game that was played 36 years ago, and my opponent played Queen C2, and I got crushed. And I was like, well, if that move crushed me, then I'll start playing it. And ever since that game, when I was 14 years old, which I lost with the black pieces, I started playing Queen C2 with the white pieces. And this game was played about 6 years after the game that I lost. Okay, so my opponent played C5. This is attacking the center. When you play D4 in chess, your queen is defending your pawn. Well, I just moved my queen, so nothing's defending my pawn. So he attacked my pawn. So I was like, all right, I took his pawn. And I figure if he takes back with his bishop, he moved his bishop here, pinning my knight. Then he moves it back. That's okay. Now here my opponent made a strange move, like Queen C7. I think the idea is to stop my bishop from going here, which I almost never do. I almost always go bishop G5. So it didn't really affect me. Okay. And these moves are all reasonable. We're just getting our pieces out. And we got a very normal kind of position. And this was the key to the whole game. Okay, so I got all my minor pieces out, and he got all his minor pieces out. And I castled, and he didn't castle yet. And I have my rooks on the open line. This is a half-open file because I don't have any pawns on it. So my rooks potentially could move up the board. And in this position, I don't know, maybe white's a little better, but it's about equal. And the normal move is, just to, castle kingside. And my opponent made a very strange move. He castled queenside. And when you castle, one of the main reasons is to get your king safe. The other reason is to activate your rook, because your rook's stuck in the corner. Well, can't say his king is safe because all the pawns that started on the queen side when the game started aren't there anymore. Conversely, my king's pretty safe. My pawns are still in front of my king. Now, the reason my opponent played that is because he was a stronger player than I am. He still is. And he thought, I'll make the game interesting, and then my opponent will play badly and I'll win, as opposed to making the game boring. He was trying to avoid any kind of draw. He wanted to win. Okay, but he went too far. So when you have opposite side castling, one of the main ideas you want to achieve is a pawn storm. If you castle on the same side of the board and you pawn storm, then you're opening your own king because you're pushing the pawns in front of your king to get to your opponent's king. But if you castle opposite sides, when you pawn storm, your king is fine. So we both did a pawn storm. So I played b4, going for his king. He attacked my bishop with h6. I attacked his pawn on d6. Now I have a lot of guys on his pawn. So he played e5. I saved my bishop. And he continued with his pawn storm, g5, trying to get to my king. I continued with my pawn storm, a4, trying to get at his king. And now he made another bad move. He actually needs his rook here to defend the center, but he wanted to get my king. Okay, so he played rook d to g8. Now he's got his rooks lined up against my king, but my king's pretty safe. I got 3 pawns in front of it and 2 minor pieces. Pretty safe king. His king, he moved this pawn, he moved this pawn, he moved this pawn, he moved this pawn. His king's not as safe. Now he still has pawns in front of his king, so I want to get rid of his pawns. I don't care if I lose a pawn as long as his king is open. So now, even though I can't safely move a pawn towards his king, I did anyway just to open his king. So I played a5. Now a5 isn't sufficiently defended. It's defended once and it's attacked twice. So he's like, all right, I'll take that. And instead of taking back, after which he could take, I played c5. I'm just pushing my pawns and I'm attacking his king. Okay, and he didn't like that. So he decided to attack my king and he played pawn to g4. What would I have done if he had just taken my pawn? Well, my intention was to play b5. And now you can see my pawn and my bishop are on his a pawn. If he takes, I'll take with the knight, attacking his queen, and you can see that I'm breaking through. A funny example would be queen c6, knight a7, check, winning his queen. Good for me, okay? But no matter what he does, he's losing because my bishop is attacking, my knight's attacking, my queen's on his king, my rooks are open, and he's not attacking my king. My king's perfectly safe. So this position's actually winning for white. Okay, so after c5, instead of opening up his king further, he decided to attack my king. So he played g4, okay, attacking my knight. I ignored it, and I kept attacking his king. That's what makes opposite side castling so exciting. We checkmate each other, okay? I played pawn takes pawn, forking his queen and bishop. I took his bishop. He took my knight. And I ignored this pawn because I'm trying to get at his king. It's a good thing my bishop's on g3, blocking his rook. And I played bishop to the other side of the board. Bishop takes a6. Okay, so I'm really crashing through on his king. Okay, he took my bishop. I took his bishop. And he took my pawn. He's attacking my knight. And my knight can't move away because he'll play queen takes queen. My knight's pinned. So he's a pawn ahead, but his king has no cover. So he's completely losing. My king is really safe. And this rook on h8, it's just trapped in the corner, not doing anything. I played a really nice move here, rook a8 check. This position, black has 3 legal moves. Queen b8, which is obviously silly, I just take his queen. Knight b8, which is the move that he played. And king b7. And king b7 fails to 2 consecutive tactics. So you can learn tactics this video. First I do a skewer, and then I do a fork. Okay, this is the skewer, rook a7 check. Okay, attacking his king and queen. He has to take, or I take his queen, and then I do a fork. And that's actually called a decoy. I make his king move to a7, and then I fork his king and queen. He saw that. That's why he played for the World Championship later. He's a pretty good player. So instead of playing king b7, losing his queen, or queen b8, losing his queen, he played knight to b8. Okay. Now, the diagonal to his king is open. Before, he had a knight on d7, and now there's no knight on d7. So I was attacking on the file, then I was attacking on the rank, and now I attack on the diagonal. Queen f5 check. Not only do I attack his king, and attack his knight, and attack his pawn, and attack this pawn, but my knight's not pinned anymore. Remember, I couldn't move my knight because he takes my queen? My queen's not there anymore. Okay, so now he gave up. He resigned the game, and I won. And when the game ended, he said, "How old are you?" And I told him how old I was. And he was upset because I'm younger than he is. I was 19 and he was 20. He didn't want to lose to a younger player. Okay, but instead of giving up, he can't block with this knight because that knight's pinned. He can't block with his queen because I have a rook on d1 taking his queen. If he plays this, I win the same way I showed you before. I do a skewer, and then I do a fork. So the only move that makes any sense, other than him giving up, is knight here. Okay, now the computer says everything wins. No matter what move I make, I win. All the moves are winning. Okay, rook takes knight wins, knight b5 attacking his queen wins, knight d5 attacking his queen wins. I was going to play bishop takes e5. That was my plan. And the computer says, yeah, that wins too. If he takes it, I have an amazing checkmate. That's checkmate. My rook's defending my queen, and his knight's pinned. If he doesn't take my bishop, he's going to lose his queen. If he moves his queen, I have two checkmates. The cute one is to sacrifice my queen, and then checkmate. Okay, that's the one I liked. Now, it turns out the move I was going to make is a really good move, and every move is a really good move, so he gave up. As you can see in the final position here, his king is getting attacked everywhere, and my bishop and my 3 pawns keep my king really safe. When you opposite side castle, you castle on one side, they castle on the other side. You want to attack their king and not get your king attacked, then you have a good chance of victory. I hope you liked that game. I know I did. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold for Kid Chess. Until next time, bye kids.